It's an honor to speak to you about something that is near and dear to the hearts of many of us. The restoration of what seems lost, the years that feel wasted, and the hope we can find in a future of redemption. There are times in life when we look back and find ourselves caught in regret. We think about the time that has slipped away, the choices we've made, the opportunities missed, and the years that seem to have vanished, never to return. Perhaps we've spent years in pursuit of the wrong things, or we've faced seasons of hardship that seem to have taken more from us than we could bear. In those moments, it feels like we've lost precious time, time that can never be reclaimed. But I believe that when we open our hearts to the possibility of divine restoration, we begin to see that what we call wasted years are not wasted in the eyes of a loving Creator. And though we may not always see it immediately, there are profound ways in which God can and will restore those years, not just in the distant future, but even in the present. Restoration doesn't wait for tomorrow. It's something that can begin today, in the midst of our brokenness. The first way that God restores our wasted years is by redeeming the brokenness of our past. We all know what it's like to experience loss, disappointment, or failure. Perhaps you've invested years of effort into a project, a relationship, or a dream, only to see it fall apart. The story of our lives is often punctuated by these moments of brokenness. It's easy to think that once something is broken, it can never be fixed. But the truth is, God specializes in turning our brokenness into something more beautiful than we could ever imagine. God doesn't promise that we will be free from suffering, nor does He suggest that everything that goes wrong in our lives can be undone. But He does promise that He will take the brokenness of our past and transform it into something new. In the hands of the Creator, what we consider a wasted moment can become the foundation of something meaningful. This is not just about healing the wounds of our hearts, but about turning those very wounds into instruments of growth and understanding. If we think of the human experience like a tapestry, we often see only the tangled knots and the threads that don't make sense. But from a higher vantage point, we can see how those very threads, woven together, form something far more beautiful and purposeful. What seemed like a wasted year or a lost opportunity may be, in the end, the very thing that leads us to deeper wisdom, greater compassion, or a renewed sense of purpose. God restores the brokenness of our past by showing us how it can serve His greater purpose in our lives. The second way in which God restores our wasted years is through the power of His presence in our lives. When we are lost in regret or sorrow, it's easy to feel like we're alone. It feels as if time has moved on without us, and we are left behind in the wake of what we have lost. But God's restoration is not just about what happens to us in the future. It's about the presence of God in the here and now. In the midst of the pain and confusion of the years we believe we've lost, God is with us. His presence in our lives doesn't erase the past, but it gives us the strength to face it with a new perspective. When we invite God into our lives, we begin to see that the years we thought were wasted can become moments of transformation. God does not sit idly by while we struggle. He walks with us. He is present in our everyday lives, offering comfort, wisdom, and direction when we need it most. Imagine that you are walking through a dark forest, unsure of where you are or which way to turn, but then a light appears, soft, steady, and illuminating just enough to show you the next step. This is what God's presence does for us in the midst of our losses and regrets. It doesn't erase the darkness, but it leads us through it. It restores us not by changing the past, but by giving us the courage to move forward. With God beside us, we are never truly lost, and in that companionship, we find the strength to rebuild and move forward, leaving behind what was once wasted. Finally, the third way that God restores our wasted years is through the promise of new beginnings. No matter how old we are, no matter how far we may feel we've fallen, God's grace offers us the possibility of starting anew. There is always hope for the future because God's love is not limited by our past mistakes or our lost opportunities. We can look forward to a future that is not determined by the mistakes of yesterday, but by the infinite possibilities that lie ahead. God doesn't just forgive us, He empowers us to begin again. Every new day is a chance to embrace a fresh start. Even if we feel that time has slipped through our fingers, God offers us the ability to begin again. This time, not in our own strength, but in His, and with Him, we are never too old or too far gone to make a fresh start. God's restorative work doesn't just end with our healing. It brings us to a place of new beginnings, where we can walk in the fullness of the future He has prepared for us. God's restoration of our wasted years is not just about healing the past, although that is an important part of it. It's about renewing our hope for the future, giving us the opportunity to start again, and offering us a vision of what is still to come. The God who makes all things new is not bound by time in the same way we are. What we see as a wasted moment, He sees as an opportunity for new life, new growth, and new potential. And as we learn to trust in His ability to restore, we find that the years we thought were lost are not lost at all. They are simply waiting for His touch. So, my friends, let us not be discouraged by the years we believe are wasted. Let us trust that God is at work in our lives, redeeming our brokenness, walking with us in our pain, and offering us the hope of new beginnings. In His hands, no year is truly wasted. Every moment is an opportunity for transformation. With God, all things are possible, and that includes the restoration of all we thought we had lost. Let us trust Him, therefore, with the years that seem wasted, for in His hands, even time itself is subject to His power to redeem. As we consider these ways in which God restores our wasted years, it's essential to recognize that the process of restoration is often not immediate. It does not always unfold according to our timeline or our expectations. It is a journey, a slow, sometimes painful journey, of trust and surrender. We may long for instant answers, for immediate healing, for the pain to go away. But the truth is, restoration often takes time, and while we wait, we are not idle. We are being shaped, molded, and prepared for something greater. This process can be likened to the way a tree grows. A tree does not grow overnight. It takes years to stretch its roots deep into the earth, to establish a trunk strong enough to bear the weight of its branches. Yet, as it grows, there is a quiet strength building beneath the surface. Even when we cannot see it, the tree is doing the necessary work to reach toward the sky. The same is true for us. In times of waiting, even when we feel like we're stuck in the past, God is at work beneath the surface of our lives, building the strength we need to carry us into the future He has in mind for us. It's important to remember that God's restoration is not only about repairing the brokenness we see, but also about renewing our very hearts and minds. Our perspective on life, on ourselves, and on the world around us must also be transformed. For many of us, wasted years are not just about lost time, but about the emotional and spiritual scars we carry, wounds that shape the way we see ourselves and others. But in the process of restoration, God does not just heal the external circumstances. He works within us to reshape our understanding of who we are, who He is, and how He views us. The beauty of restoration is that it brings us into a deeper awareness of the truth that our worth is not determined by the mistakes we've made or the time we feel we've lost. Our worth is grounded in something far greater, in the love of a Creator who knows us intimately, who sees our potential, and who is not surprised by our failures. Restoration allows us to see ourselves through God's eyes, as individuals full of purpose despite the scars or regrets that may linger. It's also essential to understand that the restoration process is not about returning to a previous version of ourselves or our lives. Sometimes we may wish that we could go back in time to undo certain decisions or relive moments we believe were better, but restoration in God's hands doesn't mean returning to the past. It means being made new. transformed in ways that lead us forward, not backward. It's about embracing who we are becoming, rather than longing for who we once were. The prophet Isaiah speaks of God making all things new, and that is what true restoration is. God taking the broken pieces of our lives and creating something even more beautiful than before. When He restores us, He is not simply patching up what is broken. He is remaking us from the inside out, creating new possibilities, new dreams, and new strengths. Just as a potter shapes clay into a vessel, so too does God shape our lives into something more fitting for His glory. What seemed like wasted years become the raw material for this magnificent work of restoration. And as God restores us, He also prepares us to restore others. One of the remarkable aspects of God's restorative work is that it often equips us to help others who are walking through similar struggles. When we experience God's healing, we are called to share that healing with others. Our experiences, once marked by pain and loss, become the very things through which we can offer hope and encouragement to those around us. The restoration of our wasted years is not just for our benefit. It becomes a testimony of God's power to heal and transform, a testimony that can inspire others to trust in His redemptive work. In fact, the beauty of God's restoration is that it is not a solitary act, it's communal. As we are restored, we become agents of restoration in the lives of those around us. We bring the hope of renewal to a world that desperately needs it. We extend the grace that we have received to others who may be stuck in their own struggles, encouraging them to trust in the God who can restore all things. Therefore, I encourage you today, regardless of how wasted you may feel your years have been, to look forward with hope. The God who created the heavens and the earth is the same God who can restore every lost moment, every regret, every broken dream. He is the God who takes the ashes of our lives and makes them into something beautiful. He is the God who walks with us through the darkest seasons and brings us into the light of new beginnings. Do not despair because you think the years have passed you by. The years are not gone. They are simply being redeemed in ways you may not yet see. Trust in the promise of restoration. Trust that God is at work in your life even when you don't feel it. And as you trust, you will begin to see how the broken pieces of your past, the wasted years, and the pain you've experienced will be woven into something far more glorious than you could have imagined. So, hold on to the hope that God will restore your wasted years, not by erasing them, but by redeeming them. Let Him take the brokenness, the regrets, and the pain, and transform them into something that reflects His love and His grace. And as you trust in Him, you will find that what seemed like wasted time will be the very foundation of your future, a future full of purpose, joy, and the amazing power of His restoration. My friends, let us remember that no matter how much time we believe we have wasted, no matter how many mistakes or regrets we carry, we serve a God who specializes in restoration. He is the master of turning what seems lost into something precious, the one who sees beyond our failures and offers us the grace to begin again. Our wasted years are not lost to Him. They are moments He will redeem, reshape, and use for His greater purpose. So I urge you today, do not measure your worth by the years that have slipped away, or by the mistakes you think you can never undo. Instead, measure your worth by the love of a Creator who sees you, knows you, and promises to restore all that seems broken. Trust in His ability to make all things new, to heal, to renew, and to bring you into a future filled with hope. Let your heart be encouraged, for no year is truly wasted in the hands of God. His restoration is not just a future promise, it is a present reality. Embrace the hope that He is at work in your life, even in the seasons of loss and regret. In the end, it is not the years we think we've lost that define us, but the God who is constantly at work, making us whole again. So, walk forward with confidence. Let the story of your life be one of redemption, of transformation, and of unshakable hope. With God, your wasted years can become the very soil from which new growth will emerge. Trust in His restoration, for He is making all things new. Even you. Thank you.